The Working Artist Project is brought to you by Second Line Arts Collective. Learn how you can support at secondlinearts.org.
We're creating a platform for those who are curious, one that tells the story from the artist's perspective. Moments in time, captured from the innovators who are reshaping dance, music, theater, and the visual arts. This is the Working Artist Project.
Happy Monday, y'all. It's Jeanette Berry.
Jeanette, what's up? Welcome back.
Thank you. How are you?
I'm good. And for everybody who doesn't know, this is Jeanette's third week here. Gregory Ajit is on vacation in one of the A's. I'm gonna say he is not in Aruba. That's too nice, man. He's in
Alabama.
Oh, that's even worse. Alabama. Wow. I'm sorry. If you're in Alabama right now, your life sucks. I'm very sorry about that. And I'm from Mississippi,
so you could say that. Oh my gosh, right? That's funny. How was your little getaway? Didn't you go away?
Oh yeah, me and my wife, we got away. We went up into the woods of Pennsylvania, which ain't much better. No, I'm just joking. But yeah, it was cool. It was great. We had a great time, man.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, I just basically went to sleep for 2 days, so it was nice.
Nothing wrong with it.
But yeah, so anyway, okay, let's get to the show, man. We got a very special guest tonight. And she's one of your good friends and one of my new friends. I make best friends right away. So me and her, we best friends. How about that? And tonight's guest is the vice president of Women in Jazz, amongst many other things. She's kind of an incredible human being, and her name is Tahira Clayton. So you guys welcome Tahira Clayton to the Working Artist Project.
Hey, y'all.
Hey.
How's it going? Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Oh yeah. Good. Yep. You sound great. You all right?
I am awake, which is it's a feat. Are my eyes open? I think they are. It's been a travel day. I just made it back from Antibes, France, which is in the south of France. I was playing over there for a couple of days. And I didn't know you could get jet lag so quickly. I was there for 3 days and I'm like, where am I? What day is it? What time is it? But
right.
I'm good.
Oh man.
I feel like short period of time is like worse. Like 3 days, I feel like is worse than going for like a week.
100%. Like you have no time to even begin to adjust, but we're here. We're here. I'm grateful. We're here.
Absolutely. We're really happy to have you here. I want to get right into this because we only got 1 hour and I definitely want to give all the space in the world to you to talk about, and you and Jeanette to talk about what's happening with women in the creative space. And this is gonna be my day to listen and be like, oh, okay, yeah, wow, okay, let me learn something today. Y'all gonna learn me something. So can you just start off kind of just telling us a little bit about yourself and your background and how you got involved with Women in Jazz?
Yeah.
Women in BAM. How about that? Women in BAM.
That is a more accurate statement, and I co-sign that 100%. I am a vocalist. I have been singing all of my life, and I knew that it was sort of the career path that I was going to take. And I was always really supported in that. The only caveat from my parents was you have to go to school. You can do anything you want, but you have to get a degree in it. And then I found out that you can go to school to study Black American music, or jazz studies is usually how it is called in the university realm. And that experience was sort of the first time I realized, like in a very systemic way, that not only am I being treated differently because I'm Black, but there's also this component of me being a woman, this like intersectional nature that I just really wasn't aware of until I sort of took the institutionalized education path in jazz. And, you get to experience a lot of things in that realm. You have things like the, Jazz Education Network conference, and you have these workshops and these panels that you can go to that just start like opening up the mind a little bit more. And I was intrigued by it. I've always considered myself a little bit of a troublemaker good troublemaker, in the sense of like, when you know something isn't right, like how can you fix it? Like how can you figure out like how to make it better? And when I landed in New York City, I very quickly met Roxy Koss, who plays saxophone, and she's a composer. Um, and just like ideas immediately, we're on a gig, we're playing like a wedding or something, and those little short breaks, we're just going back and forth, quick and quick and quick. And then within a few months, she had this idea to start the Women in Jazz organization, and invited me to a meeting that was about 40 women that she knew. And it was a really intense, super like, whoa, there's so many people who are having the same experience as me, and it was really solution based, like people were there to talk about their problems, but people were also there to figure out, how do we make this better? And I think from there, it was a couple of months after that where Roxy invited me to join the leadership team for the Women in Jazz organization. And I took that opportunity, specifically as a Black woman, to start figuring out how not to even the playing field for women in general, but specifically Black women, because I think Black women have a very specific set of issues that we face when it comes to sexism in the industry. And here I am several years later, having added researcher to my titles. I guess that's a thing that we do to tell people what we do. I'm a little bit of a biology nerd. I think it's really fascinating. And I think that there are a lot of connections to music. And one day I ran across this term called Foster's Rule. And it states that if a species is denied resources, then eventually that species will go extinct. And I thought, well, hot damn, like, how could this not be applied to women in jazz, in Black American music? And then thus started, about a year's worth of research into that rule and how does it apply to women in jazz. And I've been writing that way for a really, really long time now, of doing that research and connecting it back to that rule.
I remember when you first presented that when we met, I guess just last year, and I was blown away. Firstly, also because there are not many people that I've found that are not only musicians, but like to dig and research. So I'm so happy that you exist, that you're in New York, and that you're doing this work. I'm like high key a fangirl of Tahira's, if y'all couldn't tell.
It's mutual.
There's that. Thanks. So with all of that, I know lots of people have been talking about pandemic, post-pandemic, all this stuff, what the differences are. Let's just talk about that. What are you observing? How has it been? You just got back from France. What's going on?
Yeah, it's really interesting, because I think to talk about like the general population, like regardless of gender or how you identify, there's obviously been a lack of resources for all sorts of people all across the spectrum. And I think what it has done positively, is people are getting out, people are trying to play music, people are trying to reconnect to each other, and they're trying to play, etc. The negatives of that is that none of the issues that were apparent prior to the pandemic got solved, right? Like, I think people generally were working on themselves and trying to figure out, like, what is life? What are we doing? Who am I? All of these things, which is beautiful. But I don't necessarily think that growth with regards to sexism has changed or has happened. For example, here's a story that happened. I was over in France with a band that I didn't know. And all older white men, very kind to me, very sweet. I've never met these people before. That can be crazy when you're traveling internationally. And it was such an interesting meeting of the minds, because this very specific population, which I will I can talk about all day. I won't today. But this very specific population, specifically with jazz music, and a sample size for what happens to women a lot of the time in these musical social situations, which is where you have the best of intentions. You have no wish or desire to be offensive, to be hurtful, but because of like a lack of awareness or a difference in language or a difference in thought or even a difference in information that is presented, you become very offensive and very hurtful and very sexist. And during this trip, it was really beautiful. These guys, I hope they're watching. Like we got to talk about this at length because we were spending so much time together. But I'm like, do you realize that you don't look me in the eye when you speak to me? You speak to all the other men, but you don't look me in the eye. Do you realize that you've cut me off several times when I've been talking, but you don't do it to other people? Do you realize that you asked me my keys for songs and then went and double checked with somebody else because you didn't know if I knew what I was talking about for sure? You know, all of these little different things that come up. And for me, when I was thinking like, people are figuring this out in the pandemic. Like we're talking about it on Facebook, you know, we're talking about it on these Instagram lives. Like this is something that people are starting to consciously think about. And I learned that like, no, that isn't necessarily the case because these things are ingrained. They're like little tiny little microchips that are in the brain that you can't weed out unless you intentionally and purposely do it. And I think post-pandemic life is making that more apparent to people, right? Because more people are speaking up about it now. Yeah.
That's a very interesting point, the intentionality of it, because literally before you got on the call, Jeanette and I, we were talking about something very similar that has to do with the organization that we run here at Second Line Arts Collective, which is a small nonprofit. And as we noticed that as we wanted to hire more equitably, that we had to like really be like, oh, we are going to hire women and we're going to hire this many women who are qualified to do these jobs when it comes to teaching students and things like that. Because before we subconsciously just hired all dudes and we were like, damn, what's happening? You know what I mean? So it's something
Absolutely.
that you have to think about it from in an organization. You have to think about it in your daily life. You know, you can't, it's just not going to happen because you typed it online. Like, oh, I believe in, you know, equality. Everybody's cool. No, you got to like practice. And so like, what are some things you think needs to change to help people like actually act on their keyboard warrior statuses?
Mm-hmm.
What do you
Yeah,
think?
I think you make such a great point. I love that you say practice, because that's really what it is. You know, I think, you know, the first thing, and I used this example the last time Jeanette and I were talking about this together, but I think the first thing people have to do is build a level of awareness that they don't even realize they don't have. Right? Everybody says this, right? The first step to, you know, solving a problem is admitting that you have a problem. And it's more than saying I'm sexist. Like, I don't care about that word. I think whatever, like, what is that word? I care about how we're acting on the word. So one of the things that I'm going to ask, you know, all of your listeners to do this, you know, do it right now, pause where you are, which is go look at a music festival that's running right now. There are a ton happening all over the country and all over the world, right? Check out one and go see how many acts of women are on those festivals, or go look at your local jazz club and see how many women are booked for the month of August, right? And I think people will see like, oh, wow, there are only one or two acts that are women, or there are no acts, you know, that are women. Like that's something that's interesting, right? So it's self-starting. I would say the first thing is self-starting and making yourself aware that there is an issue. The second thing, which is not necessarily related, but I think it's just as important, is if you consider yourself a Facebook warrior, like if you're posting that status and you're talking about equability and equality, I am going to double dog dare you to go pick up the phone and call someone who you may be a little bit afraid of to talk about this with. Go call them. Call me. You can call me. I'll give you my number. hit me up on Facebook Messenger, call me and
You seem
have that
pretty nice.
conversation.
You seem pretty nice. Some people
I am.
they might not need to call him. They might need to just call you. They might not make it out, you know.
That's true, but that's good for you. It's good to get your butt burned every now and then, right?
Yeah.
Because I think, the point that I'm really trying to make, Darrian and Jeanette, is that I don't think people become aware of their own like lack of thought about certain issues until they're faced with it in real time.
Absolutely.
And it's better to do it in a safe space with somebody who's welcoming the conversation than stumbling upon it. And then you get defensive and you get mad and you shut down and you can't have the conversation anymore, right? So do it with somebody that you know or who's offering to start practicing having your ideas challenged in real time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love people to understand that it's not it's not, for me at least, in observing, it's not necessarily personal. Like, I know, like, deep down, maybe your intentions are good, right? Like, you just need some help. Like, like I tell my students, take your ego out of this. Like, stop getting in your feelings about it because somebody called you on the fact that you said something that was demeaning, insensitive, racist. Like, it's not about your feelings. Like, just think about the words that you're saying and in the intentions in which you're saying them with. And if that has to, like, yes, that has to do with a little bit of feeling, but I'm not talking about you, the person and the soul. Like, I want you to act better. And that's not necessarily simply just about your feelings and how you feel about the situation. It's really, like you said, putting it into practice. And now the world is opening up and we get to see that practice. It's like for the whole year, everybody's been in the practice room, right? Of this kind of social justice stuff. Well, not everybody. As we can see, a lot of the times the same people have been watching the conversations and have been, doing the work. But there are some new people that are in it. And now it's like, all right, get out on stage. You're gonna mess up. Like, it's just gonna happen. Like, you're gonna fumble. But like you said, fumble in the safe spaces first. And with that, what would you, not just those calls of action that you just posed, but like, what would you say to women to help support this? Because we're coming out of this and, it's not easy. What would you say specifically to women in music?
Yeah, I think the first thing that I'm inclined to say as a woman myself is safety first in your mind and your heart and your physical space, obviously. I think women who have always been strong, we have always been strong and we have always been powerful. I think, though, we are living in a moment where it's socially acceptable to be that way. Like once upon a time, Jeanette and I would be considered like renegade women because the way we run our mouths, and it wouldn't be called having opinions, it would be called running our mouths, right? So I think we're living in a moment right now where it's finally not only accepted, but supported for women to have voices and to use them very loudly. And I guess the thing that I would say to women is like, practice doing that. Like, practice using your voice, because as many strong women as I know strong women who are like a little more quiet about their strength, and that's okay. But I think, what is going to continue to change and turn the tide is as more women become aware of our condition and feel the need to talk about it in a way that's fierce, and you need to fight for it because you know that it's affecting you and you don't have the wool pulled over your eyes. I liken it to my journey with racism in a lot of ways. Like, I always knew about racism and I always knew that it was something that I was dealing with, but it wasn't until I really knew that it lit a fire in me. And now I can't stop. I won't stop because I know too much. So for women, like, safety first, obviously, and to dig into the power of what this moment is, in that it's not so scary anymore to step out because there are so many women who are ready to cover you and who are ready to support you in that. Yeah, I know that's like a really big and sort of vague idea, but I think you know, believing in your own voice, specifically as a woman, like believing in it and knowing that what you have to say is true and real and that it's valid, is something that many women don't know. And I see that running an organization for women, you know, that there really is like a lack of confidence sometimes in what you have to say, because, oh no, I shouldn't, I don't need to. Yes, you do. And it's okay. You've got help, you know?
That's interesting. I'm wondering, like, what do you think the most, specifically in our field? We're all jazz musicians to some degree here, right? Whatever, wherever that we are fit in that umbrella. But what are the most pressing issues that you see in our field, and then also after we get there, like, what do you think we can do to solve them for women specifically?
Yes. There are two things that are fighting with each other that I think of as like the biggest issue. I think, speaking specifically about the jazz genre, I think the biggest issue is that women are not given the same opportunities as men when it comes to opportunities to play, opportunities to lead gigs, to play festivals, to play anywhere. I think women, when they get those opportunities, it's because they had to fight and scrape for them. And I'm not saying men don't have to do the same thing. I'm just saying it's harder for women. So I would say specifically right now, it's like women are not playing at as great of a rate as women are. And I think that's a huge issue, because if we don't intentionally and consciously decide to make that shift and to start intentionally booking more women, as you are doing with Jeanette, if clubs aren't doing that, we will be in the same place that we were a year ago, 3 years ago with the Me Too movement. And which, in all of what that spurred, it wasn't just about sexual assault and harassment. It was bringing up the ideas of women not being offered the same opportunities as men. If we don't really start addressing that in a real way, and that doesn't mean booking like one band that is woman led a week and like saying that you did it, like you did not do it, right? Or having women as sidemen and being like, oh, but women are playing my club. Like, that's not the same. It's not the same. I think we have to intentionally be pressing on these rooms and really demand that they book more women, because there are hella women out here who play their asses off, like, period. Why aren't they playing in as much frequency as men, you know? And it shouldn't just be a few women either. And I count myself among that. It shouldn't just be me and a couple of my buddies or whoever else playing gigs. Like, if we're talking about equability, we've got to spread it all the way around, you know? You had another part to your question and I've already forgotten. I talk a lot. Y'all probably noticed this already.
The second part was just what can we do to fix it?
We can't hear you.
Sorry, see, I was touching all my buttons. I was saying this. The second part, I was just saying, what can we do to fix that problem? But you kind of already answered that in just making sure that we book more. We're very intentional about booking more women, in these venues and in festivals and things.
And I have to do it too, y'all. Like, I'm really bad about it too, because the people that I have been playing with for years and years and years are some of my great homies, and they're all dudes.
Yeah.
And they're great players. And it's like, man, I love the way that you play my music. So it applies to me as well. Like, it's just being so intentional about it.
Absolutely. I was looking for pictures at some point of women instrumentalists. And I had to check my own bias, because I was looking at, my dad's a saxophone player, and so I'm used to looking at people play saxophone. I'm not used to looking at women play saxophone. So I'll look at pictures of all these women playing sax. There are so many. Lauren, Camille, Roxy, like all of these women that play saxophone, and still it feels strange to see a woman with breasts holding a saxophone. Like, and that's wild to me. And I had to check myself and be like, wow, we really also need to like put those images out there. Like, hey, women play these instruments, take more pictures of women playing these instruments on the bandstand, make it something super intentional that we're not just necessarily booking them, but you're also using them, if with permission, for their likeness for things, so that people get to see, oh yeah, women play drums, women are percussionists, women play saxophone, women play all of these instruments. Like, it's not just about certain instruments, it's not just about certain women, but it's the intentionality of actually putting it out there as well. Like, if you've got an ad for something and there are no women on that ad, but there are women on your lineup, you're also doing something wrong. And I just had to share that, to share my bias too. Like, it's all things that we're working on, but once we take our ego out of that, it's going to be a lot easier. Have you been writing music, and has any of this seeped itself into that?
I have been writing music, and some of it has. I will say, what has been inspiring my music a lot recently has been younger women. And that's sort of where, my focus, if I had like a goal for 2021 going into 2022, or what I'm actively working on right now, is the idea of representation that you just brought up. I think everything you said is 1000%. And I'm also going to add that we have to start doing it for the younger generation. Like, kindergarten girls need to see women holding saxophones, right? Girls in middle school, when they get into their music programs for the first time, need to see women, playing the drums. They need to see women playing an upright bass. We have to start really, really young. And I've been working a lot with younger women, especially as I'm, working on the Sweejo Mentors program. And like, just young women are so dope. They're just so dope. You know what I mean? Like, they're coming up, like, so in themselves, like so much sooner than I remember being for my own self. It's so beautiful, and it's so fearless, and it's fierce, and it's stylish, and it's hip, and they're playing changes, and it's killing. So I've been very, very inspired by the young women that I have been mentoring and been talking to, and hearing about their experiences and listening to their music. Like, it's been very, very inspiring. Yeah. So that's yes, beautiful. I have been writing.
I have a question. This question is kind of for both of you guys, and it's something that I do hear in the masculine, the male identifying community, and it's kind of like going back to what we were talking about earlier. It's like, okay, if you want me to come out and say, hey, I made a mistake, that was sexist, how do I know? And I'm not me personally, but I'm speaking for the dudes. How do I know that I'm not going to get canceled? How do I know I'm not going to be persecuted on Facebook or Instagram and blah, 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 XYZ? I think with the cancel culture now, sometimes people are afraid to make mistakes, afraid to be human sometimes. And I'm not making excuses for dudes who are fucked up human beings by any means. But some people, everybody can't be level 10 messed up, So I'm curious to have both your perspectives on that situation.
Yeah. I think you bring up a really great point. I am not a fan of cancel culture, because I think what happens is that we stop giving people opportunities to learn. Like, it makes this sort of specification that you can grow, but not where I can see you. And I think that's really ugly. It's really ugly. And to answer your question, you don't know that, speaking up and trying to, own up and take responsibility for what it is that you feel like you've done, or that you've done. There are no guarantees, but I will say the people who really care about enacting change see that in you, right? Like, a non-musical example that I love to give is Kobe Bryant. Like, that's a whole conversation, but I will say, like, he was the example of what you do when you really mess up. He is the example. He fought it for a little while, then, he came back and he laid it bare. And you can't take that away from someone. You can't take that away from someone who is so vulnerable and so open about where they were wrong. And if people still want to cancel you after that, you don't need to be around them, no way. That's how I feel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that your community will lift you up out of that anyway. Because, right, the community is a big part of this too. The community holds you accountable, holds you responsible. Like, I think there is protection, and I hear what you're saying. And I know, I can imagine that it's difficult to be on that side of it. But I think, you know, if you're really being genuine and you're really laying it bare and clear and like taking responsibility in a genuine way, like, what is cancel culture? Like, what does that even mean in that situation? You know?
Okay. All right,
I agree 100%. And I think it's about listening to the women and the other even male identifying people that are doing the work. But listen to women first. And like we said, try to fall in those safe spaces. And if you're really being honest and vulnerable about it, and you're doing it with your community, there's a moment there where you can feel some sort of safety. Even if you do get, you know, knocked upside the head with some words, not physically, but with some words. If you're doing it with the right people, it's out of love. And it's important to remember that, because the women that are standing next to you want to see you succeed. We don't want to persecute you if we're standing here with you. If we have the space to have these conversations, we don't want to see you persecuted unless you continually put your ass out there and not do the work and just say, well, it doesn't really matter. I've had conversations with folks that flick it off, like, and make it condescending, like, well, somebody's going to cancel me and I don't care, and da 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 da, because this is just the way it is, and yada yada yada. And it's like, well, you're not actually here for me, for the community, for the culture, for the music, for the scene. And that's something that we have to also do, is not be afraid to hold people accountable. You know, we can have these conversations all we want, but like from the beginning of our conversation, if we're not saying to somebody, like, you know, just tapping them on the shoulder, yo, we need to go talk about that, right? Like, and we don't have to do it in front of people. I say this all the time, and Black people will understand this. Like, sometimes that's family business and nobody else needs to know. And I think if you're in the right community, you can be hurt by something that somebody says, but if you're willing to work and the people that are next to you are willing to work too, there can be change and there can be growth.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm with that. All right, that's dope. So y'all, look, if you out here listening to this, it's a chance, bro. Just it's a chance of redemption, baby.
You do it. It's never too late. It's never too late. I mean, okay, wait. I'm going to qualify that statement. I think it is too late if you've been like out in these streets being horrible unapologetically for years and years and years and years and years and years and years. And then the only reason why you want to get it right is because you're about to get canceled. Like, I think it's too late then. But true. I don't think it's never too late to start trying to rectify. Like, if you know where you've gone wrong, it's never too late to try to rectify that.
Right. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, man, this whole subject is rough, man. It's rough because, you know, it's just so much. You got so much life to live as a dude, you know, and it's just like, yeah, when you were 16 to 25, you're probably a terrible person. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. At least I was. So, like, not that you were, you know, but you probably said one or two things that was out of the way. And I think in the era that I'm 36, so, like, there was no Facebook. Nobody put me out. I just said it. Somebody was like, nah. And you was like, okay. But, like, now you're on Facebook. It's a video of it. You know, it can really affect your whole life. So that's why I think sometimes people are afraid to come out.
You know what, though?
And
like,
say,
my mother told me from young, don't talk out your neck. Like,
yeah, that's true.
It's like the idea that asking for civility is, you know, who knew? Who knew that you just had to, like, talk like you have sense most of the time?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, some of it I don't get, and I've never understood, like catcalling. I'm like, that it doesn't work. Like, if you, I don't.
It doesn't. It really doesn't.
Yeah, no. I just like to do things that work. Like, hello, my name is. That works.
The issue with catcalling is it's not about the getting, it's about the power play.
Yep.
It's never about the getting, because catcalling, that's not what catcalling is about. Listen, I had this one dude, I will never forget this. I was walking down by Rockwood, and this dude passed me by and he was like, "Hey, do I know you?" I was like, "I don't know." And he's like, "Actually, I don't, but da da da," and like asked for my number. I was like, "Okay, that's nice." Like, don't say, "Hey, yo, shorty." Like, I don't, that's not it. That is about, catcalling is about power. It's about showing off with
Yes.
your boys to sometimes embarrass somebody, sometimes to make them clam up, to feel inferior. That's power. That's not necessarily desire to want to be with somebody.
Yes. You know what? It's so funny that you bring up catcalling, Darrian, because I was just in France, and people are very different there. Like, everybody is very different there. It's a very different culture. And Jeanette, you hit it on the nail. Like, for me, this past week was when I realized, like, oh yes, it has always been about power, because, you know, in France, there were plenty of men and women who were like, wow, like, you are so, hello, have a nice day. Have a great, I just wanted you to know. It's like, oh, wow, that just made my day. Like, thank you so much. It just feels so much better when it's coming from, I want you to know that you are a beautiful person and that's it, versus what everything that Jeanette just said. Like, it's about, I know that I can get you upset, or I know that I can ruin your day, or I know I can make myself feel big and bad by degrading you in this moment. You know what I mean? So yeah, control. I'm just sort of reflecting on what you're saying, Jeanette, because I think for me, that idea was like really solidified by going to another place where men are very vocal, but it doesn't feel the same way as it does, on 14th Street or whatever.
Right.
I'm curious, just with this whole idea of power, the power of it, and is it common in your life as a woman to be put in situations where you feel powerless, or you feel like someone is trying to, dominate you, so to speak, at work, or I don't know, is this like a normal thing in occurrence?
I would say now, no. Like, I know too much of my own power to be dominated. But once upon a time, absolutely yes. And I think that there are plenty of women who never get to know their own power, and they feel dominated. And it's not that they're making it up. It is that they actually are attempting to be dominated. This man is attempting to dominate them. And that feeling was a really real, and frustrating isn't even a strong enough word. Angry isn't even a strong enough word. Desperate is not a strong enough word. Like, I don't know that there is vocabulary yet to explain what that feels like, to have your power extinguished and to know that somebody is using their stature to dominate you. But not anymore. That's not a feeling that I have. I know too much of my own wills now, How about you, Jeanette? I'm curious.
So yes and no. I am currently in a situation where I didn't realize it was happening until I paid attention, because I generally don't pay attention. Because I'm just like, y'all think you're better than me, and that's funny, right? Like, that's hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you're a man, you think you're better than me. That's funny. But since I feel that way, I always feel like I'm equal, at least right now. But when I realized that's what they were doing, I was literally shocked. Like, the people that I knew well had the audacity to think that simply because they were a man, they could try to dominate me. But I do also think there's aesthetic politics that also come into this, that are very interesting, that I don't think women talk about enough. The idea of conventionally beautiful and not conventionally beautiful. But to briefly answer your question, yes, I felt there's been like this kind of aura like she, you know, she doesn't know what she's talking about, or she needs help, or da 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 da. But now I'm getting in my life that I'm too masculine, and I know, and it's just like, what are we talking about here? I'm so like, y'all are funny. So very interesting. Very
So you
interesting.
think this idea of masculinity makes the men feel insecure? Is that what happens?
Yes.
That has been my experience. It's so funny that you use that word. That word has been applied to me very much recently. Masculine. Yeah. Like an insult almost.
Yes. Yes. Correct.
Mhm.
See, as a father, you know, like I have a young daughter, and so like all of these things I have been recently thinking about more, because I'm like, okay, I don't want her to live in a world like this where she can't just be. And I think as Black people, we all know what that is. And so like we don't need another layer of that. Like you guys don't need another layer where you just can't be. It's just not fair, you know?
No, I hear you. Intersectionalism is a really tough, it's a tough thing. Those different intersections, and I'm sure your daughter will have plenty. It's not just that she's a Black woman, but you know, a Black intelligent woman, you know, a Black intelligent, strong woman. Like these are all really beautiful adjectives. Black, intelligent, strong, and a woman. Like that's great. And they all carry their own set of negative connotations that make it really hard to exist joyfully as all of those things. But I'm working on it for her specifically, and for all of, you know, our little Black girls especially, and I'm working for our little Black boys too, to make sure that they don't make our little Black girls feel the way that we have felt in our lifetime, you know.
Yep.
Absolutely. I love that. That's beautiful, man. Keep the work going. Why don't we take a minute? Why don't we take a pause? Because you do got some music, and we getting real close to the end.
Yeah, let's play. I just saw the time. Yeah, let's play some music.
This one is called Wait Till Now. Check this out, y'all.
Yeah.
Wait till now. Shadows still warm with heat. Sunday came with a new dish to clean. Content to leave chaos abound. With love she pressed me with a sound. She said, wait till now. You're gonna wait till now. I knew nothing what her words could mean. A covert plan to reinstill. Got into my mind, easy to abide. Maybe the signs chase for my life, and strength to guide a peaceful mind. A mind so free it won't succumb waiting of the young. Grave is the mistake to remain, and I fear that you won't be the same. Why don't you wait till now? You're gonna wait. Won't you wait until now? Whisper the word to the fam. No pause for self-limits. Just give in to help. Allow yourself to be just who you envisioned. Whisper the word to the fam. No pause for self-limits. Just give in to help. Allow yourself to be
Okay, y'all. So y'all waited all that time just to hear that, and it was amazing.
Tone.
You know what you remind me of? I hate to say this, but you know
Thanks,
what you remind
y'all.
me of to hear? You remind me of myself in the shower
Huh.
when I get it, I get in there, I turn the shower
Oh,
way.
I'm
No, I
mad.
just- no, you sound beautiful, real for real.
Oh my gosh.
Thank
Re-
you.
Really,
Thank
what
you.
I was
It's
thinking about was Michael Jackson, and just something about the energy of that song made me feel like Quincy produced that track. I don't know who did, but that was hot. I loved
I
it.
did. But
Oh,
thank you.
wow. Got a young Quincy out here, Jeanette, right? Ah.
That's high compliments. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful.
Thank
So
you, y'all.
so what were we waiting on? Wait till now for what?
Ooh, okay. So this song, it's the name of my first album. It seems like such a long time ago. It was not a long time ago, but Wait Till Now is a song about my grandmother, actually, who isn't with us anymore, but she is with me every day. I would go spend summers in Louisiana. I was born in Louisiana with her. And I was the dish girl, you know. It's I had chores as you must and as you do. And Sundays, you know, I don't know about y'all, but Sundays were like the day in our house. You know, we got up, had breakfast, went to morning service, came back, had lunch, went to afternoon service, came back, had dinner, went to night service, went to Sunday school. You know what I mean? Like the whole day. And my grandmother, she would have these elaborate meals for every single meal. And I would have to clean the dishes. And one week, I was like, Grandma, like, wouldn't it make more sense, like logic, if I waited until the end of the day to wash all of these dishes? Like, you're not using the same dishes. Like, let me just, at the end of the day, you know? And she, like, I won't even try to do the look, but she looked at me, pointed to the kitchen, and said, you are going to wait until right now to go do those dishes. And I was like, yes, ma'am, I will. But I say it in the song, it's a lyric. Like at the time, I didn't know, like I knew not then what her words meant. I didn't know what she meant then. It wasn't until much later in my life when I realized like she was giving me something to live by. Like, don't wait to do the things you know you have to do or even want to do. Like, wait till now to do it, meaning do it now. Like, what are you waiting for? You know? And when I was, you know, sort of dealing with her death, like that came to me very strongly. And that song was born in a night. And then I had an album not too long after that.
Wow, I love that whole story, and I'm gonna tell you something. I don't know about y'all, but you was only in church on Sunday. Back home in Mississippi, we was in church every day. It's like,
Ooh, I know that like too.
yeah, it's like, what's today, Monday? We going to church, baby.
Sunday school.
Right. That's
Tuesday was the deacon meeting.
right.
Wednesday was choir
study.
rehearsal.
Yep.
Thursday was second Bible study. Yep.
That's right. That's right. It's always something at church, bro. I tell you the
Always.
truth.
Yep.
Listen, Tahira, so we coming up close to the end here, and before we go, I definitely want to give you an opportunity to tell everybody where to buy your merchandise, where to buy your signature Bibles, and whatever else you got on your sites, and where they can link with you on all the socials.
Yeah, thanks, y'all. My website is the place for everything. That's TahiraClayton.com. TAHIRA Clayton, CLAYTON.com. It's got my albums on there. It's got some of my writings. I write a lot of poetry. I write some thought pieces as well, sort of talking about the state of the world with regards to sexism and racism specifically. I have a community newsletter that you can join as well. That is more thought pieces on those things and forums to talk and exchange ideas. And I guess you can find me on Instagram. I'm not really on there like that, but that's at tee.clay on Instagram.
Yeah, you're right, man. So y'all go to all those places, check Tahira out. Go to her website. You got a Bandcamp?
I do have a Bandcamp. It's set up.
All
Hit
right,
me up.
Find her on Bandcamp. Buy the record on Bandcamp, because when you buy it on Bandcamp, the artist gets all the money.
And buy it on, especially if you want to wait for a payday, the first Friday in August is the next Bandcamp Friday. So go on and get you all of her music, all of anybody's. If you love somebody on Bandcamp Friday, August, I think it's 6th. Most of the more money goes to the artist. Just give it all to us.
Thank you.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. We got student loans, kids, dogs. You know, we got we got all
Trying
that.
to record more projects. We are out here, y'all.
So we appreciate y'all's support. And Tahira, man, thank you so much for coming on the Working Artist
So
Project.
so much.
Thanks for having me, y'all. I appreciate the warmth and the love and the listening ears and the ideas. It's much appreciated. More of this all the time. It's great.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right, y'all. My name is Darrian Douglas.
And I'm Jeanette Berry.
This is the Working Artist Project. We'll catch y'all next time. Later.